Welcome to the Elokus podcast. This is class number 5 in the discourse of Chadsheichem 5672, which is the 9th discourse in the great book B'Shasha Ekdimu 5672. We are now in class number 5. It's also the 5th class in chapter 33 of the book. We are continuing what we were learning about in this chapter, is that once the light goes into vessels, then according to the refinement of the vessel, to that degree, the light can shine. And therefore, the whole hierarchy of higher sphirot and lower sphirot is only when lights are vested in the vessels. That's when there is that whole a system of higher and lower. And he's explaining it first how it is within the intellect itself, that the attribute of Chachma is called higher than Bina, because Chachma has a very refined vessel. In Bina, there is a little bit more of a density on the vessel, so there's less light. And he explained how the sharpness of the light is in Chachma. And even when you get back to the point in Bina, in understanding, you'll never recapture that blinding light that is in Chachma. And then now he continued on to explain. In our last class, we were learning how the same applies to the emotions, that in general, the emotions are lower than the intellect. There is much more density in the vessels of emotions, because emotions are all about self-consciousness. And in order to have an emotion, you have to feel yourself very much. And in general, the idea of feeling self is a density of the vessel that makes something be more something. And when something is more something, it feels itself. Light doesn't have a hergish atzmai. Light feels the source, it doesn't feel itself. Keli, vessel, feels itself. The denser the keli, the more keli the keli is, which means the more the vessel is, which means the more limited and constrained the vessel is, the more it's in touch with itself. The more light there is in something, the less it feels itself, the more it feels its source. That's why in the world of Hasidism, the highest, deepest levels of existence are always associated with self-nullification, where you don't even realize that you're experiencing something awesome and great. You're completely lost in the experience without feeling yourself. The more one feels in Hasidus, they looked frowned upon very much. The real Hasidic mashpiyim, the real Hasidic, what's it called again, influencers and mentors and teachers, they had an incredible nose to be able to sniff out when someone was self-aware of their own. I don't mean self-aware and aware, and when you say that, use it in a positive way. I mean to say when one is dense and when in everything they do, they feel themselves, they project themselves, and that is frowned upon very, very greatly in the world of Hasidism. It's all about, because Hasidus is all about the soul, not about the body's density. So that's called yesh. But in relatively as well, within the whole process of kelim, we say that the more denser the keli, the more it feels itself. So you find it also that life, which is more associated with the neshama, when any limb and body, any limb and organ in the person is fully infused with spirituality, which means with the soul, then you don't feel that limb. When you start feeling that you have a leg, or you have a foot, or a hand, or you feel you have a spleen, or you feel you have a spine, or vertebrae, or whatever it is, you know you're in trouble. You know that there is a vessel there. There is no light, because when the light is infused in the vessel, the light cancels the feeling of the vessel, and that what the properties of light dominate, and the properties of light is not to feel self. So, class, that the key to the emotion. So that's why when Adam and Eve ate from the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge, they started being very self-aware, and they realized their nakedness. And then as a result of that, they became self-aware in everything they do, and that's the selfishness, the self-absorbed character that has plagued humanity since the beginning of time, which is the source of all darkness and all suffering in the world. People feel too much themselves and become obsessed with themselves instead of feeling their mission, their purpose, become self-feeling. So that's the das. Now, the emotions, which are a product of the das, are ourself. Now, it's not something to be dismissed because God created us to be a human being who has a sense of self, and our emotions at least can get the self excited about things that are outside ourselves, good things. But along with that comes the a certain degree of self, which is the emotion. And there, precisely because of that, he says there's much less energy and light in an emotion that there is in the intellect. Being that the intellect, you forget about yourself. Even the vessels of the intellect don't feel self; they feel more the object, the object of their intelligence, the entity that you're exploring. In relationship with God, you feel God. You don't feel yourself, that you know God, or you love God. It's not about you. It's about God. You lose yourself in God. That's the holy intelligence. The emotions, although they're holy, they have a self. I love, I want, I fear. But that itself means that the light has to be diminished. That's what we learned in the earlier class. So this is consistent with the idea that the light becomes commensurate with the vessel, and in accordance to the vessel, so will be the light. And that's what creates higher sphirot, which means more light, and lower sphirot, which means less light, more vessel. Okay, so now we left off by these words, Levad midos atzmim. We're going to go back a line. This is the middle of chapter 33. Because the whole idea of emotions do not emerge and do not get awakened only when you feel yourself. Levad midos atzmim. But there's an exception. There are certain emotions which we call them emotions, but really it's deeper than an emotion. And those types of emotions, a whole different type of quality of emotion, which doesn't come with self-awareness. And what are these? These are essential emotions, vitivium, and very, very much embedded in the core nature of who the person is. Meaning not acquired emotions, not emotions that come and go, that are developed on the person on a more outside level. That's the regular emotions, which develop on a person, which become forged upon a person based on the exposure of a person. So, which means you look around the world, you see things that are beautiful and nice, and you want them. For that, you have to feel yourself and feel that that's good for you, and therefore you want them, or you're scared of them. But then there are certain things in which you want them essentially. Those emotions don't require a self-awareness. Even when you're not self-aware, when you're not deeply conscious of your own existence, let's say you're very, very busy with something, even when you're not even focused on something, these emotions could be there and could be felt very strongly. Even when you're distracted. It's interesting, and I'll give an interesting example to that in a moment. What are these? He says, let's say a love that we have to our children. Parent and child love. The parents love children. It's an essential. It's not a something you came to know and you came to get excited about in your life. It's inherent. It's inborn. It's engraved in the very soul of the parent. And therefore, it's something that is just there. You don't have to be conscious. You don't have to have das in order to love your children. It's just there. Because they're not developed through the intellect. They don't come from feeling oneself. But rather, this is yourself. This is your essence. This is yourself. And God forbid something happens to a child, the person gets completely shooken up to the core, even if they're not in a state of self-conscious. Like if you love your car, and it's so then you get very upset about if the car got a scratch, and then you can differentiate. If you're in a state in general of you're in tune with your own existence, then you can get very upset if something's your emotions. And if you're busy with something extremely important and you're kind of not thinking of yourself, it can kind of just slip by that something happened to your car, because your relationship with your car is an external type of a bond. But if something happens to your child, there's no such a thing that I'm too busy now, I'm too busy with something. No, it because it's your essence. But he says this is not really called an emotion. This is more called It's more like desire. Desire is more like your essence. The ava zoi subchenes ratzon. He says that's desire, but ava, not love. Love is a more external type of a thing compared to the essential desire of the soul, which is attached to who, just like the soul is attached to itself, it's attached to everything that's extension of itself. And that's the desire. The midas ava, the emotion of love is not that the thing that you love is from your substance, and your essence. It's not that the thing is you, it's because you feel the thing will be good for you, not that it is you. It's an enhancer to your existence. So if you feel your existence and you want your existence enhanced, you have the love. It comes through feeling yourself. But an essential love is more will. It's that you love like the love of a father to a child, or a child's love to a parent. The ava bezed, that the love in this, this is not so much ava love. We call it love, but it's not so much love, it's deeper than love. A person desires that which is oneself and one's substance, without reason. And that's why when you desire your child, you're not really, or desire your parent, it's not what you're seeking, is not the externalities of them. You're not the properties of your child and the properties of your parent. You love them at their very core. You love their essence, because it's not something about them. It's self-love, so you love them, everything about them. Like explained elsewhere, the difference between love and desire. The ava teifeses be his pashtus vagiluyim levad. Love, when you love something because it's not you and you want it because it's an enhancement of you, to you, so you love the properties of it that enhances you. You love the kindness of that individual. You love their funniness, your sense of humor, if that's what you like. You love their company. You love their whatever. You love their wisdom. Or when you love things, items, you love what you benefit of them, not it. That's called, you like the hispashtos, the expansion of it, vagiluyim levad, and the revelations of it. Mashenkin our ratzon, which isn't the case of desire, when you love something because you are and it are one, toifis be'etzim. That touches you in your essence. You're grabbing, when you're loving your child, you're loving the essence of your child, and it's coming from your essence. Like when people are in love with each other, and not a parent and a child, but a more external love, when the love is dependent on something. The sibas ava, the cause of the love. Why do you love this person? Because this person is always helping you. Midas chaste v'tuvay, they're always extending their kindness and their goodness. Because other great things you like about this person. So then you need contemplation. You have to have a certain consciousness in the good and kindness you receive from this person to love them. That this person has given to you. Or that's if you received something from them. Or sometimes it's not because you received anything, but you appreciate their quality. Or to understand and to comprehend the elevation, the quality, and the preciousness of it. Which produces the love. Therefore, what are you loving? Not them, but something about them. This that your love is latching onto is only in the expansion and the revelations of the beloved. In other words, if that person would lose everything you love about them. You love someone because they're such an amazing, and suddenly, God forbid, something happens to them and they go paralyzed or whatever, God forbid, something hits them and they lose all their abilities that you once admired in them. Kind of disappears unless it's your child. Child, you won't. It's the cause of the love, and this is what you're connecting to. But the love and the desire of a son and a father, you don't need any contemplation. Because a child doesn't love a father because the father took care of them or did kindness, because your father is the greatest person around, but rather because he is your father. He is your source, he is your essence, he is your substance. And therefore, in that desire, you're connecting to who they are, not anything about them. And in this desire, you're grabbing and you're holding on to their essence. Not in the revealed side of them. Now, I'll give an example to this. My daughter, my oldest daughter, and my son-in-law just moved away halfway across the world. My daughter was living with me basically all my life. She went to school a few years, but now she got married 10 years ago, built a family, lived a block away from me. Now, I knew that when they're moving right now, they moved to Australia I realized it was like the best thing for them. Best thing for my daughter, for my son-in-law. He became he received a huge rabbinical post in Melbourne, and it's huge. So I had no reason to be hurt or bothered by the fact that she's leaving. All right, my daughter is leaving, my family, my grandchildren are leaving. And I was busy. Actually, at the time that she was leaving, at that week, I was very involved with something that can distract you. I was in the perfect state of incredible distraction. So I wasn't thinking that they were leaving. They left on Tuesday. It started, I think, on Friday, Shabbos, but mainly Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Till we went to see them off in the airport, my bones were hurting. I can't explain it. I had such a heaviness, and it wasn't like I sat down and I contemplated. Oh, my daughter was. I was so busy, but I just had this. And my daughter says, "Oh, Dad, in our family we don't do emotions." She knows, because we're not we don't do emotion. We're not so open with our emotions. We don't do emotions, so we don't know. But you can admit we're feeling sadness. And I said, yeah, I'm feeling sadness. It's very interesting. The moment, like a day late, I saw them off in the airport. They went into the elevator, and it was a glass elevator, and that was as far as they let us go. The accompaniment, and they went up, and it was like the deepest feeling of like, ugh. It was all smiles, but the heart was crying. And I came home from the airport feeling empty in my soul. And then the next day, it like completely flushed out of me. Of course, I missed them, but that heaviness. And I realized what he's talking about over here, that it's something of essence. It's not rational. It's not conscious thinking. She was my oldest daughter. She's my daughter, and Baruch Hashem, we have 6 children, but she's the first one. She made me a father, and she's leaving me. Even though she's not leaving, today on WhatsApp, you can FaceTime as much, but she left. And it was such you can feel essence was hurting. And that's what he's saying, that's called ratzon. That's not love. It's much deeper than love. Where in Baruchni is the same as also spiritually, the midas ava, the emotion of love, that comes through contemplation. In godliness, we can also operate and connect to God on 2 levels. The external part of our soul, then on that level, we're not like a piece of creation. On the outer crust, our soul becomes a creation. Over there, on that level, God to us is a benevolent, kind, gracious, infinitely good ruler and good benefactor, that it's all the other goodies that come from him, or because he is phenomenally awesome, because he's precious. But that's something about him, and that's a love that comes from our intellect, and that's called love. And for that, as we said before, you have to have more feeling of self in order to love him. However, there's something deeper. There's a level of soul where our soul is a piece of God. It's a much deeper level. And when we can uncover that, then God is no more loved because of anything, but rather we love him because he's our Father. It's a whole different level. The midas avoshabai, contemplating the quality and the greatness of the divine. Ubemidas chas, the goodness yisbarach. Shahakiruv v'advekus bezeh, and the kiruv, the closeness and the dvekus bezeh, and the attachment, hu ba'oire leki, is in the godly light shabba b'chenas gilui, in the godly light that is revealing itself. As you like the revelations of God. But a much deeper level of desire, which comes from the very desire of the heart, which is the pure godly spark of the soul, doesn't love God because of the qualities of God. I felt with my child, we can feel that towards God. And that doesn't want anything about him, it just wants him. And that's what he's saying. It's grabbing not the qualities of God. It's grabbing. It's latching on to God Himself. As it says, as King David expresses that level. He says, "Mili b'shamayim, what are you going to offer me up time in terms of the heavenly delights? Who is to me in the heaven? Perks God, imcha. That means the paradise and all the treasures that are with you but are not you. They're the godly perks. Lo chafatzti, I don't desire that. You don't want the lights, you don't want the revelations. All you desire is the Orein Sof, the infinite light, the very, very substance of God Himself. Again, this is all parenthetical. He's really trying to explain emotion. How emotion is more vessel, more self-consciousness, and so on and so forth. And therefore it's denser. But he contrasts it with a higher level, but he says that's not really called love. That's deeper than love. That's where you can have desire. A person can have desire even when they don't have love. In other words, the essential bond can exist. In other words, there is a famous statement, is like people say, get to like the people you love. What it really means, getting to love the people you desire. That's a deeper way of saying it. We all love our children. We all love our parents. We all love our siblings on a deep, essential level. But it's a whole different story also to love them on an external level where you want to actually love them, which means to, on a day-to-day level, appreciate their things about them so you can love them. So that's, but he says it's possible to have desire without love. When you have the love of a father and a child, they can be very angry at each other and get into a fight, God forbid, and there is no love, but there still is desire. If at the time that the father and child are having a bad day and they're fighting, God forbid something happens to one of them, the other one is beside themselves. If the child, for instance, is not following and not behaving in an appropriate manner, the father feels pain. The father doesn't feel love. Father can actually be disgusted with his son or upset. There's no revelation of love. He still has the essential desire. Essentially, he loves his son. God expresses that. God says about Israel, you get me so angry, I don't know what to do with you. But what can I do? You're my children. Whether you behave or whether you don't behave, you're still my children. That means on a deeper level, he's inseparable. And he brings a verse that says, Af kam zois. Notwithstanding all that I'm angry, this is the end of the rebuke, where God is saying, you anger me, I'm going to throw you into another nation, I'm going to curse you, the worst things. And then God says, after all of this, I cannot be repulsed by you, and I can't be disgusted by you. As the sage says, I mentioned earlier, whether you serve me or you don't serve me, whether you're favorable in my eyes or not, you're still my children. This is the level of desire. But that's not emotion. The idea of an emotion of love, that is based on reason. And once it's based on reason, you can only love things that are good for you if you care about you right now, which means you have to be conscious of the fact, you have to feel yourself and therefore want good things for yourself. It's depending on feeling yourself. The same as all the emotions, and dafka, they're only they hergish atzmi when you feel. There's a difference between intellect and now it's going back to the main point that we're learning between the intellect and the emotions. When you feel yourself too much, you can't even have an objective understanding of something. That's why we know that a judge has to recuse themselves if they have a invested interest, because then if you're too invested emotionally, which means but you don't have bittul, you have self-interest, you have a feeling of self over here. You cannot then see the truth for what the truth is, because you're going to be blinded. You're going to see it in a jaded way. So intellect requires the forgetting of self. But if you remain a forgetting of self, you'll never be able to get an emotion afterwards. So in order to have an emotion after an intelligence, you have to get back in tune with self and approach it from a self-aware place. Don't feel yourself. Because the general concept of intelligence is that you're being elevated, and you're bonding to something that's above you, which causes you to forget about yourself, the nullification of self, abnegation of self. Stated elsewhere, the hamidos and the emotions are very, very much self-oriented. And therefore, and here is where he finally says the punchline, and that's why the light, the godly light of the soul, the emotions are more denser. The more something it is, the less the nothingness of the soul can be present. And even though this itself that you're grasping when something is good, how is the emotion getting excited about the goodness of something? It's through the mind. So the mind is playing a role. To understand the goodness of something is taking place in the mochin. Nevertheless, even though the mind is seeing the good of something, the mind is not seeing it subjectively. The mind is seeing it objectively. When the mind appreciates the beauty of something, it's celebrating its beauty. It's not concerned with, oh, it's beautiful and therefore I want to have it, or that it's even beautiful for me. Intellect loses itself. It doesn't care about self. It's just looking out a clean window at something. It doesn't even know that it exists. It knows it exists. It's lost. And therefore it's not thinking, oh, it's so good, that will taste so good, that will feel so good, it will be so exhilarating. No, that's not it. That will enhance me. No. It's just it. The goodness of something, essentially. Not what it's good for me. The quality of it. But when that gets translated to the emotions, if you want the emotions to get excited, you can't leave it in a very objective type of goodness. It has to start being translated into a subjective goodness. That's so beautiful. And if I wish I can have it. And if I can have it, that's going to make me good. And that which translates into the emotions, the emotions don't care about how good it is. The emotions care about how much of the pie am I getting. And even more than that, he says, even that idea that the intellect appreciates the quality of it, unrelated to the person, just it is good, even that is only the external of the intellect. The deeper part of the intellect is not even to see the wow and the good of it, just to see it. The wow and the good is already, in a sense, the emotions of the intellect. It's not the pure intellect. Pure intellect is just to conceive something. The oh, how awesome this is because it is this, that's already interpretation. That's already noise. And that's already emotional noise. The gamza is even this that the intellect does appreciate. That's the external element of the mind. The ikaru b'midah shebemoichin, and that's really taking place in the emotions of the intellect. The moichin be'etzem, because the essence of the emotion, and rak hasagas etzem adavar, is to be able to look into something for what it is. Lo yasat toiv shel adavar. Now, how good that is, rak mashamasik etzem inyan. It just appreciates and comprehends the essence of it. Vasagas adavar, and grabbing it, how it's good, that you're getting an excitement in your mind, that's already the emotions of the intellect. That's the emotions of the intellect. Okay. Let's learn another line. But even the emotions of the intellect, it's still not about it's good for me. It's just that it's wow, it's good, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's awesome. But once it comes down into the heart, into the emotions, that's a whole different feeling. Then I'm feeling how it's good for me. But hergish, the feeling is how it's good for the person. This excites the emotions. Stated elsewhere. So to summarize, the pnimius of the mochin, the inner part of the intellect, is not concerned at all with anything about it, just it. The emotions of the intellect is wowed by the greatness of it, but that's it. And the understanding of the goodness when it comes into the emotion is it's the lowest level of the intellect, where the intellect is translating this knowledge into why it's good for me. 3 levels. But all of this is intellect and emotions. But deeper than that is your connection to things that are just you. That's beyond all of this. It's not about anything about it. It's just it itself, the essence of it. Like a parent and a child, like we said earlier. Okay. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos.